Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our reading of the Gospel according to St. Luke. We are reading the King James Version, and we are up to chapter 22, uh, which brings us squarely to the crisis. The climax of the whole Gospel is here. Jesus, this wonder worker and preacher of the kingdom of God, a new doctrine, a new wine in new bottles, has been drawing closer and closer to Jerusalem. He is now in Jerusalem and has confronted many times the scribes, the Pharisees, the chief priests of the temple, uh, in openly confrontational terms in front of large crowds of people. This is an abrogation, a brook to their authority that they obviously cannot put up with, to say nothing of the Romans who are watching this guy who commands potentially violent crowds call himself king. So even if you hadn't been familiar with the story, and of course I would argue that no one who originally read this gospel when it was first written down was unfamiliar with the story, but even if you weren't familiar with the story, you would know by now that matters are coming to a head. And that's going to happen here in chapter 22. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12, and he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains how they might betray him unto them. And they were glad, and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray unto them in the absence of the multitude, which is King James' version of saying what I've been saying for a few chapters now, which is the chief priests and the captain of their guard, they want to kill Jesus. They want to arrest him, put him on trial, and put him to death, with the permission of the Romans, of course. They can't do it when he's surrounded by crowds. They need an insider to tell them when they can get at him when he's alone. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare us a Passover that we may eat. And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall ye meet a man, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house wherein he entereth, and ye shall say unto the goodman of the house, Master, the master saith unto thee, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he shall show you a large upper room furnished. There make ready. And they went and found as he said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said unto them, With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say unto you, I will not eat more thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took the cup and gave thanks, and said, Take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come. And he took bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave unto them, saying, This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. And behold, the hand of him that betrayeth me is with me on the table. And truly the Son of Man goeth, as it was determined, but woe unto that man by whom he is betrayed. And they began to inquire amongst themselves which of them it would be to do this thing. It's Judas, who briefly we're told is now possessed by Satan. Why Satan would need money, I don't know. Why he would negotiate for money, I don't know. Also, why he would be allowed to do this. How many times has Jesus driven Satan and other demons out of sick people? So if Satan is sitting at the table with Jesus, why is he being allowed to do it? That's a much bigger question, of course. We'll get to it. Let's just finish up here. And there was also strife among them, which of them should be accounted the greatest. And he said unto them, The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be the younger, and he that is chief as he that does serve. For whether is greater, he that sitteth at meat, or he that serveth? Is not he that sitteth at meat? But I am among you as he that serveth. Ye are they which have continued with me in my temptations, and I appoint unto you a kingdom, as my Father hath appointed unto me, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on the throne judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee, both into prison and to death. And Jesus said to him, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt deny thrice that thou knowest me. And he said unto them, When I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, Nothing. Then he said unto them, But now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say unto you, that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among his transgressors. For the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, It is enough. This, to put it mildly, is also a passage that you are unlikely to hear from the pulpit on Sunday. Jesus telling his disciples to arm themselves is not the Jesus you usually get in a Sunday homily. Or if you do, once again, it is homilized to a fare thee well. There is no doubt what Jesus is saying here. He's not speaking in metaphors. He is shown actual swords. If he were speaking in metaphors, he would say, no, you missed the point. He doesn't. But anyway, and he came out and went, and as he was wont, to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples also followed him. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, Pray that ye enter not into temptation. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast. Very interesting little detail there. And kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not thy will, but my will, but thine be done. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And when he rose up from prayer and was to comfort his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow, and said unto them, Why sleep ye? Rise and pray, lest ye enter into temptation. It's always been a little bit confusing to me here. Not only that Christians maintain the idea of 3 gods in one. Like many passages that we have read in Mark and Matthew and in Luke, it is absolutely clear that Jesus and God are 2 different people. They are not the same person. They are 2 different people. Jesus is praying for relief from God, from his Father, instead of magically transporting himself to Egypt or Delaware. Instead of doing that, he's praying for forgiveness. He's praying, maybe even at this late date, is there any chance that I can escape from this plan of which I am a part, that has as its crucible a horrifying 2 days of torture? If there's any way that I can get out of that, but of course it's not what I want, it's what you want. That's 2 different people. That's one person talking to another person. The other detail that's always confused me about this passage is that an angel comes to comfort Jesus, instead of God coming to comfort him. An angel does. I'm sure there are exegetical readings of that make sense out of that, but it's as reading it just as a piece of literature. It seems odd that God would talk about Jesus to others, but not at least even talk to him at this moment and buck him up. And while he yet spoke, behold, a multitude. And he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before him, and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? When they which were about him saw what would follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite with the sword? And one of them smote the servant of the high priest, and cut off his right ear. And Jesus answered, said, Suffer ye thus far. And he touched the ear, and healed him. Then Jesus said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and the elders which were come to him, Be ye out as against a thief, with swords and staves? When I was daily with you in the temple, ye stretched forth no hands against me, but this is your hour, and the power of darkness. It's a good point. But Jesus is being a little bit duplicitous here. He knows why they didn't strike at him in the temple, because he was surrounded by people, by large crowds of people who would certainly have come to his defense. That's the whole reason for this betrayal, and he must know that. Then they took him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the hall and were set down together, Peter sat down among them. But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him. That's Peter denying Jesus. Once again, we have pronoun problems. Saying, Woman, I know him not. And after a little while, another man saw him, and said, Thou art also of them. And Peter said, Man, I am not. And about the space of an hour after, another confidently affirmed, saying, Of a truth, this fellow was also with him, for he is a Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately while he spoke, a cock crew. And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter, and Peter remembered the word of the Lord, saying, How he had said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. And the men that held Jesus mocked him and smote him, and when they had him blindfolded, they struck him on the face and asked him, saying, Prophesy, who is it that smote thee? And many other things blasphemously spoke they against him. So there, Jesus is being taunted while Peter watches until he finally leaves. And as soon as it was day, the elders of the people and the chief priests and the scribes came together and led him into their council, saying, Art thou the Christ? Tell us. And he said unto them, If I tell you, you will not believe. And if I also ask you, you will not answer me, nor let me go. Hereafter shall the Son of Man sit at the right hand of the power of God. And then said they all, Art thou then the Son of God? And he said unto them, Ye say that I am. And they said, What need we of any further witness? For we ourselves have heard of his own mouth. And that is the end of chapter 22. A bit odd, narratively speaking. Fortunately, we get this scene in many variations, and some of the variations are more satisfying than others. This one is not. Jesus has been arrested. He knows, he's already told them, You will not let me go. In other words, you are going to kill me. He knows already that this is the focal point of the purpose of his ministry on earth. He has said that to his own Father in prayer. He knows what the hour is. And yet, when they ask him outright, Are you the Son of God? He plays a word game and says, Well, you just said I was. I'm not saying it. You're saying it. Instead of, as other variations on this moment have, him simply saying, Yes. Yes, I am. But that's where the chapter ends. It ends with no more parables, no more stories. It ends where it was always going to end, with Jesus in the hands of his enemies. And we don't have long to go, so we will read the very sad next chapter next time. So I will wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.